Okay. He did a bachelor's in physics from IIT Kharagpur, then master's from IIT Kanpur, then civil services. Guys, you've been very well behaved till now. This is the last conversation, all right? I'm repeating it once again. He did a bachelor's in physics from IIT Kharagpur, then master's from IIT Kanpur, then civil services, then master's in economics from Ohio, then public finance from MIT, and then was a PhD before I was born. An academic at heart, post his professional life, he has become a visiting faculty at U.Penn and at NUS in Singapore. He's been district collector, finance secretary of his state, then he's been the lead economist to the World Bank, he's been advisor to Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, then he's been the finance secretary of India, and he's finished his long and distinguished career by moving the interest rate as the governor of the Reserve Bank of India. Somebody who's definitely more than just a mercenary. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please welcome former governor of RBI, Dr. Duvvuri Subbarao. Please, sir. Please. Firstly, thank you for coming. It means a great deal. There are, and I'll re-emphasize it for one last time, there are role models and real models, and we're very lucky to have another role model with us. So this conversation travels far and wide. The South Bombay and Mumbai audience is in front of you. The ones who make noise are from South Bombay. The ones who don't make noise and sit quietly are from the rest of Bombay. But thank you for making the trip and coming here and having this conversation.
Thank you, Rishabh. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So my first question is this, that the audience is, as you can see, all young people. You yourself pivoted from IIT education to civil service, and you shifted from physics to economics. Based on that, what advice would you give to young people when it comes to choosing careers, given the plethora of choices that they have today, sir?
Thank you, Rishabh, and wonderful to be here once again. Vidya Balan is a tough act to follow. Okay, I don't speak the same language. In fact, I'm not sure I speak the same language as you people do, but I'll try my best. You please try to understand me. You know, a lot of people have asked me this question, how do you choose a career? I find it difficult to answer because I chose a career 50 years ago. India was different, the world was different, work was different. You know, we became either a doctor or an engineer or a professor. But today the world is different. There's opportunities, challenges are many. You could become a neurosurgeon, you could become a football coach, you could become a wine taster, or a YouTube influencer. I don't know what it is, but I believe there's a profession like that. And you could be all of that. But I want to tell you two things about a career. The first thing is, don't believe that your career is a straight line. You start from here and end up there. A lot of people ask me, youngsters like you, sir, how do I become RBI governor? Now, you don't plan to be an RBI governor. A lot of people think, oh, this guy joined IIT at 17, at 55 he became governor, at 65 he retired, and he had planned it. No, not at all. I had my ups and downs. There's volatility in every career. So have a broad idea of what you want to do, but don't overscript it because no career runs to a script. The second thing I want to say is that the world of work is going to change. You're not going to have a career. You're going to have a series of careers. You're going to do something for 4 or 5 years, something else for another 4 or 5 years, something else. Like you could be a professor for 7 or 8 years, then you could go into horticulture, then you could become a writer, then you could be running a startup. So to believe that people, this generation, whatever G or G plus or whatever, that they will have a career, right, I think is misleading. So what I would suggest is to choose a career, go for breadth rather than depth. You know, in philosophy, they talk about a hedgehog and a fox?
Right.
A hedgehog knows a lot about one thing. A fox knows a little about a lot of things. The world needs both hedgehogs and foxes. And you try to be that. And you got to be learned to learn, not just learn, but learn to learn because that's what you got to be doing.
So one common thing that all of the speakers spoke about today, and I don't know how many of you noted this down, is the love of learning and learning to learn.
Right.
It's to be continuous learners. If you remember, General Pandey spoke about it, His Excellency Joseph Muscat, the Prime Minister of Malta, had come and he spoke about it, and many others did. And therefore, I must ask you this question, that they're going to join jobs 10 years from now.
Right.
The definition of jobs are going to change. But there will be certain skills that would yet stand the test of time.
Right.
According to you, what are the skills that a young person who's in high school today should focus on?
Yeah, I think this question comes up because there is artificial intelligence coming, AI and AGI, and how that's going to change the world of work. Of course, machines are going to solve equations faster than you. Okay? But there are some unique skills that you can take. The people skills, culture. A machine does not understand people, does not understand culture. A machine might have IQ, but a machine does not have EQ, what you spoke about in Vidya Balan's session. So a machine brings IQ, you bring EQ. A machine can perform tasks, but people skills, emotional intelligence, values, culture is what people bring, and that's where your jobs are going to be.
So Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, who also won the Nobel, he speaks about how artificial intelligence, I'm sorry, I'm going slightly off script, but he speaks about how artificial intelligence will soon overtake human intelligence. And therefore, a lot of what we're doing today will become completely redundant. Even Bill Gates recently did mention there are only 3 industries that are fail-safe. What would be the industries of the future then, sir?
That's a tough question. And I don't presume to defy what Geoffrey Hinton said or what Bill Gates said. But certainly, some jobs are going to go away. And some jobs where your skills are important, your skill as a human being is important, will remain. Okay? For example, making movies, I think, I think that's something that a human experience, lived experiences matter. I think those jobs are going to remain. And anything, see, there is some people who say that the jobs are going to go away. And that's been a debate we've been having. With every technology, with agriculture revolution, people said jobs will go away. With industrial revolution, then the computer revolution, the internet revolution, that jobs will go away. But every time some jobs at the low end went away, but some jobs at the high end were created. So the world became a better place. But today, some people say this revolution that's coming with AI is totally different. Some jobs are going to go away forever. I don't know really, but I don't think anyone knows.
Anyone knows, right?
Okay, I don't think anyone knows. But if you got to be prepared for that, you got to understand, like everyone else today has said, you got to be learning all the time. You won't have just one career, you'll have a series of careers.
And so, in learning all the time, whilst we're learning all the time, one of the things that I found useful, at least what was taught to me at home, when I was 5, I was given a library of books and told, saying, Rishabh, go read. Now, I was not very good at physical sports, so therefore it was an automatic choice for me. And I was the classic nerd, as you would put it, saying, now you get exposed to books. So you mentioned in your book, which I had the good fortune of reading, and I must recommend it to anybody who wants to understand about, not just about IAS and SIR, but about how to live life and how to optimize life. But one thing that I wanted to ask you basis the book, sir, in the IAS interview that you had, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there was a vast area of topics that was covered. It was a comparison of 2 IITs, President Nixon's visit to China, Mrs. Indira Gandhi's style of functioning, agriculture in Andhra Pradesh versus agriculture in Punjab, and then quantum mechanics in physics. When you are expected to, so anybody who is aspiring to crack the UPSC, anybody who's wanting to give the UPSC at some point in their life? Great. So,
Really? No hands up for UPSC, IAS, civil services?
civil services? Yeah, there are.
Okay, there are a few hands.
The,
Fewer
the,
than I
the backbenchers are now civil are the real smart ones, perhaps. Not that you aren't. But, sorry. But, so my question to you is this. When you're 22, 23, 24, and when you are in high school, how do you, get that amount of depth of knowledge if you've not been a voracious reader from the time you were 4 or 5 or 6? So, how do you make sure that you are well prepared for your UPSC exam is what I'm asking for the 5 people who raised their hand. And also, what are the life lessons that you drew from that IAS interview, sir?
Yeah, it's not just 5 people. My IAS interview might be useful for all of you. But let me tell you a little bit about my IAS interview, which happened more than 50 years ago. It was in Delhi, in UPSC in Delhi, in the last week of February. I was still studying in IIT Kanpur. I took an overnight train from Kanpur to Delhi, arrived in Delhi around 5 o'clock in the morning. I went to my friend's house, had showered, changed. My friend's mother gave me breakfast. I had made a new suit. I pressed it. I wore it. And my interview was at 9 o'clock in the morning, the first slot. I was ready by about 7:30. I was quite familiar with Delhi, so I used to travel in buses all the time. But that day of my interview was very special, so I thought I'd take an auto rickshaw that day. But my father, who used to be in Andhra, he kept writing me letters. No, you must take a taxi today, because he was anxious that I must arrive in UPSC in good shape, unruffled. Okay? So here I was, for the first time in my life, wearing a suit. For the first time in my life, sitting in a taxi, arriving in UPSC. I arrived there in good time. The staff checked my papers, and interview was at 9. By about 9:10, I was in front of the committee. Good morning, sir, and all that, etc. Then the chairman asked me, are you still studying at Kanpur? I said, yes, sir. When did you come to Delhi? I said, this morning, sir, by an overnight train. When do you finish at IIT? I said, another 2 months. So you'll finish by the time the results come? Yes, sir. Then he passed me on to another member. Members, Mr. Subbarao, tell me, do you read newspapers? Yes, sir. Which one? The Statesman, sir. Oh, then tell me, what's the headline today in today's Statesman? I was flustered. I had not seen the newspaper that day. And then the chairman came to my rescue, and he told the member, look, it's February, still dark and dreary, first thing in the morning. I'm sure you've not read the newspaper. Why do you ask him? Then the member smiled and said, okay, did you see yesterday's newspaper? I said, yes, sir. Tell me, what's the picture, front page picture of yesterday's newspaper, your Statesman? These days, like you people talked about Instagram Reels, whenever I see a newspaper, I forget what I see in 15 seconds. But that time I was much younger, like you people, I remembered. So I said, sir, it's a picture of Muslims celebrating Muharram. He said, celebrating? Is Muharram a festival to celebrate? No, I was being flustered for the second time in 1 minute. I was taken aback. Then he explained to me, Muharram is not a festival. It's a day of mourning for the Prophet's grandson who was martyred. Then to add salt to my wounds, he said, you've been in Kanpur for 2 years. Kanpur is a predominant Muslim population. How come you don't know? At any other time, my instinct would have been to be defensive. Say, no, sir, my IIT Kanpur campus is very far away from the city. We don't get exposed to the city and all that. But I was so tongue-tied, and I was so flustered that I kept quiet. Thank God for that. Then the member said, okay, tell me, which sect of Muslims observes Muharram? Then the chairman said, he doesn't even know what Muharram is. Why do you ask him about which sect of Muslims? Finished. The interview by which I set so much store completely dissolved in the first 3 minutes spectacularly. So I thought the members will just go through the motions of having a conversation with me for about 10 to 12 minutes and say it's a waste of time with this guy, let's send him away. But in the event, the quality of interview moved up from there. They're like all that you said. I went to 2 IITs, Kharagpur and Kanpur. They asked me about a comparison. They asked me about a difference in farming in Punjab and farming in Andhra Pradesh, where I come from. President Nixon, he visited China at that time, which was very historic. Mrs. Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister, her style of functioning. And some of you might be studying physics or might go on to study physics. They asked me about Heisenberg's uncertainty principle and existentialism. You know, the reason I'm mentioning all this is that the quality of interview improved over the next 35 minutes. I went on to score very high marks, probably the highest in that year. So the lesson I drew from that is that setbacks are common. But don't be discouraged by early setbacks. You know, learn from that, move on, because life is not a 100-meter sprint. Life is a long marathon. So things will improve. So you put in your effort. It's a 40-minute interview. I'm extrapolating over an entire lifetime. I know that. But the lesson I picked up from that is that don't be discouraged by setbacks. Move on. You will succeed.
Don't be discouraged by setbacks. Continue. You will eventually succeed. This is exactly what Vidya also said in a way, in her own way. You've, of course, explained it in a very different context in terms of the IAS interview. And I'm so glad that these were the range of topics that were covered. So, but my thing is this, the vast majority. Okay, let's be honest. How many of us prefer watching movies over reading books? Let's raise our hands. And how many prefer reading books over watching movies? Great, sir. So the reason why I did this poll is just to ask this question. Books don't come as easily to very many. When you spoke about existentialism, the first name that came up was Friedrich Nietzsche and nihilism. There were two people who grew up in my house, my sister and I. And I was in the middle of all of these books, and my sister would never come to any book. Ironically, she's the one who studied overseas at Stanford and the prestigious colleges. I was here in Bombay. But the idea that books don't come naturally, and therefore the source of learning is usually the visual medium, and that may not give that much of depth. Of course, with AI, with conversations today, with the conversation that we are having, with the conversation that happened with Nadir Godrej and many others. But the idea that how does a person who is not very fond of books, yet how will they be able to equip themselves to answer all of the questions that you had to go through when you were in your 20s? Because I'm sure you would have read about all of this and then you were in a position to.
Yeah, I'm not saying that all the answers necessarily come from reading books. Some answers come from lived experiences. Some answers come from understanding the world around you, being aware of what's happening. Like, for example, I was like all of you. I went to, I was high school to IIT. I had not seen farming in Andhra Pradesh, but they asked me about the difference in farming between Andhra Pradesh and Punjab. I hope you people understand, Andhra Pradesh and Punjab were two states that have been traditionally ahead in agriculture because we had a lot of river irrigation, agriculturally forward. So they asked me the difference between them. So it's answering, being aware is very important, whether it's by reading books or watching or talking to people, or even when you're traveling in a car, looking around you. I think it's very important to understand what's happening around you. They call it, they have a mindfulness is what they call it, mindfulness?
Mindfulness. Yes.
Mindfulness is very important, being aware of what's happening around you.
So I think digital detox whilst you're traveling will be helpful. That keep our phones away and to focus on what is happening in and around may also be helpful. But sir, one thing that I must ask you, because you've had such a distinguished career in terms of the IAS, you wrote an article in the Times of India which says, has the IAS failed the nation? Many young people who are standing in the aisles, many of them have gone on to join politics, 41 to be precise. Some are in parliament. They say that we are keen to do a particular thing, but those in the IAS sometimes, some of the IAS officers may not agree to what we are saying. So, sir, do you think that the IAS has failed the nation, or do you think, or is there some structural change that needs to be brought about in the system?
Yeah. How many of you understand an IAS career? Just raise your hands. Not very many, right?
No.
Okay.
No, but we don't have the lights on, so therefore we can't see. There are some
Yeah,
hands
we
here,
can't
some
see them,
hands
but some of
upstairs.
them are.
Yeah, just raise it up high. We're not going to ask you many questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Apart from the full form.
Some hands are half raised, some are full raised, but doesn't matter. But you know, the perception, the public perception of the IAS today is of an elitist service, self-serving, wallowing in their privileges, unconnected with the world, not having the courage to stand up for what's right. That is the common perception of the IAS today.
Correct.
It wasn't always like this. You know, when I joined the IAS, or even before me, the IAS enjoyed a tremendous reputation. Because whatever had to be done, go back 75 years when we got independence, the country was totally different at that time. So it was a very poor nation, illiterate nation, where to anchor democracy, it was an unprecedented experiment anywhere in the world, that you were anchoring democracy in a poor, illiterate society like that.
Sure.
And you were to do agriculture development, social welfare, deliver education and health, enforce rule of law. All that was done by the IAS people, and IAS built up a tremendous reputation. But in the subsequent decades, in the decade of 70s and 80s, that reputation started to disintegrate. And corruption, inefficiency, ineptitude has crept in. You talked about what politicians said about the IAS. You know, a lot of this is the typical spat between the IAS and the politicians. Politicians say, we want to do good things, we want to get elected. In order to get elected, we got to do good things for the people. But the IAS officers come in the way and say, oh, this cannot be done because this is against the rules. So the IAS people are always coming in the way. And IAS officers typically say,
the politician.
politicians, you know, we're young people, we cleared a very competitive examination. I know what needs to be done. I know how to reform education. But these politicians are coming in the way, they're coming in the way of my doing the right thing. I think both stereotypes are wrong. India has progressed because of politicians, because of the civil service. And India will continue to progress only if the politicians and civil services get together and act together.
So the next generation of politicians, and Kushal is nodding, the boy at the exit, he's nodding because he's our future politician. But the next generation of politicians and the civil servants must come together in order to build a Viksit Bharat in 2047, if I may.
Absolutely.
And you know, you could dim the light because I know the cameras need the focus, so Akhilesh, you can do that. But as one of the other things that I want to ask you, sir, is in the mid-1980s, and this is again from your book, sir, Chief Minister NTR appointed you as OSD for Arak bottling. You say you were distraught, angry and frustrated by this posting. But then you go on to say, and I quote on page 173 of your book, as I look back on my career, I count my 1 year as OSD for this as one of the most challenging and easily the most enjoyable assignment of my career. That is a very surprising turnaround. So my question is, what brought this turnaround, sir? And what is the lesson that you learned from this?
So I've got to tell you that story about Arak bottling. You know, I come from Andhra Pradesh. And in the mid-1980s, we had a Chief Minister, NTR, N.T. Ramarao. He was in the movies, then became Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh. And NTR not only did not drink himself, but he had moral contempt for people who drank. And he was pained by thousands of families which were crumbling because of drinking, people dying because of drinking adulterated liquor, poverty increasing, poor families collapsing. So he wanted to impose prohibition, that no drink allowed in Andhra Pradesh. But at the finance department, people said, no, sir, you cannot do prohibition because we get a lot of revenue, a lot of tax. So unless we have tax from drinking, we cannot implement your other schemes. So we can't have prohibition. So NTR said, what can I do? So they had a small meeting and it was decided that the government will sell liquor in bottles, which will have a stamp, you know, Government of Andhra Pradesh, so that people who are drinking at least know that this is not adulterated. You know, to the extent that they have to drink, they're at least drinking not adulterated liquor. That was the idea. And they appointed me. as the officer on special duty for Arak bottling. When I got that posting order, I was distraught, bewildered, angry, anguished, pained. I said, why me? They had 250 IAS officers, and many of them with a flair for implementing projects. I had shown no flair for a project like this, much less for implementing Arak bottling. Where did they pick on me? And you know, all of you see this civil service results come every year, and the civil service toppers are interviewed, and you ask them the question, why do you want to join the IAS? The standard reply, I want to join the IAS and change the world, right? Is this the way I'm going to change the world? By bottling liquor? And you go to a family wedding, you go to a family function, and people ask you, what are you doing? I'm bottling liquor. You join the IAS and bottle liquor, and most of all, it is a no-end job. It could not be done in 9 months. So I thought I was being set up for failure. The system was rigged against me. So I went home, I brooded, I didn't go to the office for 3 days. I said, why did this happen to me? Why me? Then at the end of the week, I decided that, look, if I have to do this, let me do it. It is better to do this and fail rather than not do this and fail. So the following week, I selected a team. Slowly, I built a project office. I didn't know absolutely anything about a project like this. I learned on the job. I led the team. And believe me, 3 days before the D date, we had our Arak bottling plant in each of the 23 districts of Andhra Pradesh, fully constructed, fully equipped, fully staffed, all systems in go, ready. Okay? So it was a matter of tremendous satisfaction to me that something that I thought could not be done, I had accomplished. Something that I thought was a very dull, uninteresting job, I had enjoyed it so much. Something that I thought was a dead-end job, I learned so much. So what are the lessons I picked up from that? First thing I picked up is, not everything you do in your career is sexy or glamorous. There's a lot of unglamorous, unsexy things you have to do. In fact, the world is made up of things like that. Okay? So if you're having a meeting today, the cameraman, the mic people, the auditorium managers, they're all important. Okay? So it takes a lot of things to do stuff. So don't be vain that you are made important, you for big things. There are other people who do this. Okay? The second thing I picked up is that don't fear failure. You move forward, you grow up in career only when you grow out of your comfort zone. Okay? If you act so cautiously, if you fear failure, not do anything because you're scared you'll fail, if you live so cautiously, you might as well have not lived at all. You learn a lot of things from failure. And failure, it's the way we improve, we learn, we grow. So I learned that failure. It's like Google Maps. How many of you use Google Maps? Okay. When you take a wrong turn, Google Maps says recalculate. Okay, that's what you should do. Because in life, you will take wrong turns, but recalculate and move on.
Oh, that was beautiful. Navigating life is like navigating on Google Maps. Sometimes you'll take the wrong turn, but life will autocorrect. And that deserves a round of applause. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Thank you. And the third thing I learned is that if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Okay? You don't always get to do what you want to do. They say you are a leadership institution, right?
Yes, sir.
And in leadership seminars, you are young people, and as you grow, you'll attend many more leadership seminars. What do they tell you? In leadership seminars, they tell you that the secret to success in life is to discover your passion and pursue it. I've learned that that's not always possible. In life, most of the time, you do not get an opportunity to pursue your passion. What I learned is that the secret to success in life is that whatever you have to do it with passion. That's the lesson I learned.
And I think in that sense, it's a life well lived. It's a life well lived because you don't always get your assignment of choice. Sometimes you're given arak bottling and you have to make the most out of it, which you had. So I'll just ask two more questions because I want them to ask a couple of questions, sir. One is, in your memoirs, sir, you have written in a very unusual, self-deprecating manner, which I found very endearing, personally as well. You call it just a mercenary. And what was the thought behind the title of the book, given the fact that when you were writing this book, you could have named it anything, and you've had a career that I think most who would want to serve society and public would eventually want to emulate. So what was the reason behind the title?
Thank you. Thank you, Rishabh, for that question. You know, I considered a few other titles, decided on this, Just a Mercenary. The reason is the following. You know, we all complain about our country. All of us do, I do. How our country is unfair, unjust, unequal. There is no opening for merit. There is no opportunity for merit. I do that too. But when I look back dispassionately on my life and career, I find that this country has given me so much. I went to a Sainik school with a government scholarship. I've got an IIT education. I got to join the IAS. I worked in the World Bank. I became governor of the Reserve Bank of India, presumably through merit. How many of you know the meaning of a mercenary? Okay. A mercenary, as I understand, is someone who fights, goes and fights a war just because he's being paid. He doesn't care who wins. Today, Russia and Ukraine are fighting, right? They say that there are third country people going and fighting there. They're fighting there for the salary. They don't care who wins or who loses. They do their best. But today, Ukraine is paying them. Tomorrow, Russia says, we're going to pay you more. They move to Russia because they're mercenaries. They do their best. I'm not saying they don't do that, but they don't care who wins or who loses. Every assignment I've had, I try to do my best. But the question that flashes through my mind is that, have I tried to do my best because I'm getting paid and out of a sense of duty? Or am I trying to do my best because I'm driven by a larger purpose of giving back to society for all that I've got? Am I just a mercenary or am I something more? That's a question that I've asked myself. That's a question that readers might perhaps want to decide on.
So also, from what my myopic understanding of reading is, of reading books such as yours, is that isn't a life well lived one where you can be attached but yet detached from the work that you're doing, and only then will you be able to give your 100%. If you are too consumed by the outcome, then you will only be working for the outcome, and you will forget to enjoy the process, which is what you've enjoyed right through in your book as well, which you've documented. So is that a correct summation of the fact that that is one of the ways that one could possibly lead life, with detached attachment?
Yeah, detached attachment or attached detachment, okay? So I don't think you should get too attached, but I don't believe you should be too detached either. You know, you should be attached, you should be ambitious. I write in the book about being ambitious. You should be ambitious, you should be aspirational, you should be attached, you should be attached to the goals. But the journey is as important as the destination. Right. So enjoy the journey, focus on the journey, attach to the journey, but remain focused on what you want to achieve towards the end.
Right, right. Most of us are happy with passing 10 standard and 12 standard. That is, we are more concerned about our marks right now. How many of you are giving board examinations next year? Great. So I've summed up our problems perhaps. But let me quickly, the last one, let me quickly do a rapid fire. So the first thing that comes to your mind when I say the following words, role model.
Role model. You know, my role model actually is undefinable. Because lots of people, you know, you see in the papers, achievers. India today has 100 big achievers. You have clubs, associations honoring achievers. But in this country, there are a lot of unsung heroes. thousands, probably millions of them, you know, who are doing unsung work just for the sheer attachment to serving society. So they are my role model. They're unknown by definition. Okay?
A role model.
Yeah.
So when I say demonetization,
Shocking.
2008 financial crisis. You oversaw that period. For all those who don't know, sir was the governor when the 2008 financial crisis hit, and that was the pandemic before the pandemic. As when you go back home and tell your parents that you met him today, and so therefore your understanding of the 2008 global financial crisis in a sentence, sir.
It was frightening uncertainty, which affected millions of people around the world.
When I say RBI.
RBI. How many of you know the Reserve Bank of India? Oh, that's wonderful. All the hands. Yes, this is 100%.
It's 100%.
RBI stability.
When I say Prime Minister Manmohan Singh.
You know, in Vidya Balan's session, the question came up. Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, humility. Humility is a great leadership quality. And Dr. Manmohan Singh had a lot of it.
When I say Prime Minister Modi.
Confidence.
When I say cryptocurrency. When I say cryptocurrency, sir.
Cryptocurrency. Magic.
When I say value-based leadership.
I.I.M.U.N.
All of it. He answered the last one in the middle. But sir, one book that you would recommend every teenager reads.
One book every teenager must read. The Mahabharata. Yeah.
When I say youth.
When you say youth, all this energy, enthusiasm, vibrancy.
And when I say India.
Vibrant.
Thank you. That's very kind of you, sir. But I'll end with this. So the Schrodinger's cat experiment,
Yeah.
whether it is dead or alive, you will only come to know once you actually open the box.
Right.
The same way, you will only come to know whether this book is a good book or a very good book once you open the book. So it is my urge to all of you who are watching this live and even otherwise to read Just a Mercenary. There is no substitute, as I was told.
Thank you, Rishabh, for that. But Schrodinger's cat, how many of you heard of Schrodinger's cat? Oh, that's much more than I thought. Wonderful.
So because of pop culture, it's famous. There's a show called Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory, yes, of course. Big Bang Theory, yes.
And Sheldon Cooper out there talks about it as well. So I thought that's why to use the reference might be.
Yeah, one thing about Big Bang Theory, although it's a TV show, none of them is an actual physicist or a scientist. The equations they have on the board are actual, accurate quantum physics equations.
Yes, yes, no, absolutely, and therefore that's one of my favorite shows to watch in a way because it also humanizes and physics in a way. But sir, I will reiterate this: there has been no substitute for me, at least. And when I asked somebody that he named Shashi Tharoor, saying, "What's the secret of your language? What's the secret of the intelligence?" Him, Nadir Godrej, and I can say this for Dr. Subbarao as well. All of them will tell you one thing. There is no substitute for reading and there is no substitute for books. Therefore, please pick up this and the very many books that you can pick up. And today we've had a conversation which is equivalent, hopefully, to a book. So thank you for making the trip, Dr. Subbarao. And there's a small token of appreciation on the organization's behalf.
Thank you very much. I want to say that every time I come and talk to you people like this, every time I come and talk to people like you, it's a learning experience for me. You know, I get better. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
And that is the humility speaking. Thank you so much, sir. Akhilesh, please.